everyone, welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. This is your host, Stacey Lauren. Well, you guys, I am so excited because my next guest is actually in one of the masterminds I'm in with Alex Sanfilippo at Podmatch. And it's been really incredible getting to know him through the mastermind and then also having an opportunity to talk to him personally about what he's working on, what he's done in the past, and also what he's working on now, which is a huge kind of do the thing moment where we get to catch him at the beginning of something new that may or may not be alive for him. And so it's really exciting when you get to kind of see something in action. So I'm so excited to interview him on the podcast, get to know more about the Do the Thing story, have him get introduced to you guys. And then also we're capturing this moment in time where we get to hear more about what he's excited about, what's most alive for him. So I am welcoming Nick to the show. Hey, Nick.
What's going on? Great to be here. Thanks, Stacey, for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. I know there's part of me that's like, are you going to remember that you told me about the Moonshot story?
For sure.
And how I'm so excited to capture that as it's in its bud of existence when talking about it in the podcast.
Absolutely. I mean, Project Moonshot's basically what I wake up to, and it's seared in my brain. There's a handful of goals I feel like we set. It doesn't necessarily have to be throughout our life, but you find yourself focusing on them more than others. And Project Moonshot is definitely that for me.
Oh, good. That's great. Because when we first talked about it, I wasn't sure kind of where you were at with it. We were just, I think it was a month ago maybe. And it's always fun when you get something like that where you're like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm doing now. And then all of a sudden, the more you talk about it, the more energy that builds, right? And then it gets out even more, which is really cool.
Yeah, 100%. And I can provide some context for folks who want to know the details of Project Moonshot. Essentially, I pivoted in my agency earlier this year from it being a podcast agency to a paid ads agency. And one of my goals was to add $100,000 in monthly recurring revenue to what I am currently doing. And we're probably 2 months into this project, and it has been quite the undertaking. But I should say the reason behind the name Project Moonshot is I was walking with a friend and I just mentioned this idea and I was like, I think I would like to add $100,000 in monthly recurring revenue to my business, which obviously I feel like most people would. And he said, wow, Moonshot. And I was like, Project Moonshot, that's it. We're all in. That's how the name.
Yeah, okay, we're going to start here because I feel like this is alive for us right now. And I think just even the name Project Moonshot gets people excited, right? You want to get in on that because who doesn't want their own moonshot? So that's where it started is you're just walking, the name came out, you heard it, and you're like, oh, heck yes, this is it. And you had a clear goal, which is adding the $100,000 in revenue. And so what was the kind of the next thing that happened?
Next thing that happened is you kind of have to live with your decisions of saying that out loud. So started running some additional campaigns and thinking through the numbers of what would actually drive more sales and conversions and things like that. I think the big thing that I have noticed where there's goals that are kind of flippant that you hope happen and goals that you get obsessed over. I think this is one that has found its way into that obsession framework simply because it is, like you mentioned, there's a number to it that you can track and see how close you are. And it's also slightly scary. It is a huge number, but it is in the tangible realm. There's all of those elements of you're going to have to work for it, but it's not out of the realm. But since then, it's just been running additional ad campaigns, being willing to risk the ad spend, and obviously lots of time on sales calls and refining every bit of the process. I think big goals often make you look in the mirror and see what's working and what's not, and being ruthless about making decisions that only contribute to advancing toward that goal, the singular focus.
Yeah. Okay. So this is really great timing because I think at the time that we talked, it was probably right when it was starting. So it's good to see kind of where you're at now. A few months later, it's actually exciting to kind of check in. And then I was telling you, I don't know if you remember, about an event that I was hosting in Ohio where I was launching this $1 billion movement where I'm helping charities and nonprofits raise money. And I remember even at that time, same thing, kind of how it sounded with you with Project Moonshot, where I'm like, am I really saying this out loud? Am I really telling people we're going to be raising $1 billion for charities? But that's so powerful, right? When you can just say the goal out loud and someone hears it. And then all of a sudden it adds the more, I mean, I kind of said this in the beginning with adding more energy to it. Now, all of a sudden it's no longer your goal. You share it with other people too, which is exciting.
Yeah, 100%. I do think there's two types of personalities, and maybe this is too black and white when it comes to saying your goal out loud. I've heard that for some, there's when you say the goal out loud and somebody hears it, you get some sort of dopamine hit and feeling good about, yeah, I'm chasing a big goal. And it kind of satisfies an itch for you where you don't necessarily have to push as hard because people think you're working toward this thing. And then I imagine, and this is probably where I find myself, and maybe you do too, is when you say it out loud and somebody hears it and you're like, oh man, now I am committed to this. My name is attached to this, my reputation's attached to this, and I now have to put forth that effort. That's where I think for the right goal, some of that magic happens where it's like, okay, now I'm all in. That $1 billion is out there now, and now I'm all in.
Yeah. I know. Now the whole thing is, how do I track that? I don't know yet, because at that event, a lot of people declared they were shifting their business model and raising $1 million for charity. So it seems like it's going to go pretty quickly. But now it's like, how am I actually going to track this? I have no idea on that front. But yeah.
But that's the beauty of big goals. There's always those unknowns. Same with this Project Moonshot as well. There's always something uncertain that I'm unsure of, but that's part of just committing to the decision of, I'll figure it out. It'll find its way. I'll figure out how to track that money.
So where did you get that skill? The I'll figure it out skill?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think probably just wanting things bad enough is probably where it comes from. The first instance that came to my mind was I graduated from college with a software engineering degree, and I graduated within 3 years, and it was a new program and nobody had done that before. So I got a lot of no's that it wasn't possible to do this. And I think that was a really clear instance of, I'm going to find a way despite there being actual people saying no to, you can't take 300 level courses with 200 level courses. And this might be too rudimentary now that I've been out of college for so long, but I do think about hearing no and still being like, well, there's a way, we just have to get to it. And seeing the success of just one person saying, yeah, I'll let you into my 300 course without taking a 200 course. And that opened the floodgates to a bunch of people saying yes. So I think maybe there's some of that of witnessing that it's possible to find alternative routes early on in my career. If you can say college is part of your career, I suppose, has probably contributed to some of that mindset too.
Yeah. So when you were doing that, because that's hard, right? You're doing something brand new that no one's done before. And then you have all these people saying you can't do it, right? How did you actually power through that? I think that's the exhausting part of having the goal is all the no's. And then were you in a group or people? Were you around people? Were you, I mean, again, that's my thing with the my people thing, but how did that work?
Yeah, I think it was just being persistent and finding, I think the word that I always attribute to something like this is being resourceful. So I got told no by a counselor, and then I got told no by a professor, but then I found a professor that I had a great relationship that was willing to go to bat with me. And maybe there's something there too of building relationships with the right people that would open doors for you. But I think resourcefulness is the thing that comes up. And I can also probably provide another example too. And this is in lieu of what we just mentioned of having a big goal that was out there and you set it into the world and also received a lot of no's. Part of my story is the reason I graduated early was because I went to a private university that was extremely expensive. So I was coming out of school with $60,000 in student loans and I didn't want to live with it. So my strategy to get out of this debt was to move into a 1986 Chevy Suburban. I lived in it and I wanted to pay all it off in less than a year. And pretty much everybody in my life told me that was a really dumb idea. I shouldn't do it. But to that front, I still think this boils down to how focused can you be? And then how bad do you want it? And then how resourceful are you willing to be in order to make something like that happen? So that was a long-winded way to say resourcefulness.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like resourcefulness, so I have a framework that helps people take action. And then when you put it in a group, it helps people take shared action, which is where the mobilizing of communities come from. So I'm always looking at the formula when I'm talking to people, and it's I'm game. It's an acronym. And the M in I'm game is mindset. And I feel like resourcefulness goes under mindset, because if you don't have the right mindset, you can't actually even see the things that are in front of you, right? There's so many people that do that. It's like they're complaining about something or they're like, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that, because your mind is shutting down. So there's nothing there. But when your mind's open and you see the possibilities of all the things, now you get to be resourceful, right?
Yeah, 100%. I also think the other word that comes to mind is grit. So things are going to go wrong, especially if you have a large enough goal, like you've mentioned. Something is bound to happen that is going to stand in the way. But what I've noticed is that over a long enough time horizon, as long as you don't stop pursuing it, the likelihood that you will fail decreases significantly. So most of the time, whenever I'm facing a problem that I haven't gotten past the figured it out part yet, that's the reminder I tell myself is you just can't quit playing the game. You have to continue playing if you want to win at all.
Yeah, it makes me think of, so I was at that event in October. So basically, I partnered with Alex Sheen. He's the founder of Because I Said I Would. And it was his camp that he actually uses for grieving families to help them really get through the grief of losing someone they love. And we rented the camp, but he got to speak and it was great. We got to spend some time with him. I even created a custom Do the Thing challenge while I was there with him. And that was exciting. But it's all about the promises that we keep. And one of the things we did while we were there was we did a promise card. And I got up on the stage and I was basically declaring my promise. And I was saying, okay, just so you guys know, I declared this thing of the $1 billion for charities. And I was like, my promise is that I'm not going to give up because I feel like, and I don't know how you feel with this, but when you set those big goals, you can already be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to have to do to reach this goal? And I do that a lot. I'm like, why did I say that? I get so mad at myself because once I say it out loud, it's like, done. I've told them I think I even cried. I told them the whole story of how I didn't want to be like how I was at my staffing company. And it was so exhausted all the time. And it wasn't fun. And now I'm just having so much fun. So you set a huge goal like that. Will it still be fun? And then it was funny. I told you right before we got on about this brand new thing I just launched. I don't even know if I announced it here yet on the podcast, but it's a $1 billion impact marketplace where I'm doing this live charity auction, which is really a great way to raise the money for the charities because half the money goes to the entrepreneur, half the money goes to the charity. And so I think that model, I mean, in addition to the challenges and the revenue share, it shows that I can still have fun and do it. But the point being is not giving up, because had I decided, maybe if I didn't make that promise that day, maybe I wouldn't have ever even seen this idea for the auction that came out after that, right?
Yeah, 100%. It sounds also like I might be labeling you here a little bit. But
Let's do it.
you must be really high in integrity in your personality type, because I had a friend once say to me, this is the same guy that said, well, Moonshot, but he once said this, and I don't know, this is probably a saying, so maybe I shouldn't give him so much credit for this, that a promise made is a promise kept. And for whatever reason, that has stuck with me. And I think that resonates with folks who are like, integrity is a high priority for them and how they live. So when you mention everything that you just mentioned, that makes sense to me. So good on you for making that promise.
Yeah, I feel like this friend is going to be fun. Anytime you have a big life transition, you got to take a walk with them and then, yeah, exactly. I'm like, Yoda is coming to mind. He's your Yoda. It's good when you get someone like that that can reflect back, right? The things that you're saying, and then they're able to kind of say it almost. And I guess that goes back to what you were saying earlier about the professor, right? Surrounding yourself with the right people that gets you to open your mind and even think differently with the things that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you mentioned community. I would say that probably the largest influencer on my early development was the friends that I hung out with. That's probably true for most people, but I would say contextually in a good way. I think most of the friends that I grew up with had strong morals and character at a very early age, which I think influenced me really positively, which still holds true to now. And I don't think, no, I'm just personally reflecting out loud here, but I don't always think that I realize how impactful the immediate community is on my life until I go expand beyond it, or I experience someone who perhaps, and this maybe you experienced this too, Stacey. I've done intro calls where I'm like, wow, that guy was kind of scammy. That guy's not making it into my network, and realizing who you surround yourself with does really matter. So
yeah, because it kind of reminds me of what we were talking about before we hit record. So we'll share it for the listeners here, especially since I did say I wanted to write an article about it. So we'll just kind of we'll dive in. But so the M in I'm game is my people. So that's where, which technically the way I have it, and I always like talking about it because it helps me dissect deeper into the formula, if that makes sense, so I can explain it better. When I explain it, I'm like, it's technically not your friends and family and your regular support network. It's people that you have the same goal with. Kind of like how we talked about being in Alex Simplybo's Pod Match Mastermind. And we love it because he's focused on collaboration at the core, right? That's his biggest number one thing. And then that's where he's more impact driven, which is really, really great. And so we're surrounding ourselves not only with podcasters and people that are wanting to share their voice in this way, we're focused on the lens of impact and collaboration. It sounds like too, though, with your friends, is your goal was being in community together with other people. So I think it still works. I'm just kind of seeing if there's anything that comes to mind as I'm explaining it more.
Yeah, I think there's a lot there. The first thing that comes to my mind when you mention all of that is essentially how big goals, if done incorrectly, can lead to isolation.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because you are like, I'm so focused on this thing. Nothing else in my life matters.
Yeah.
So to your point of having people with similar goals makes the journey much less lonely. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs who are listening to this who can resonate with that fact of there are different stages in business where you might feel lonely. My immediate family or support system doesn't quite understand what I'm going through because they're not business owners or whatever the case may be. Insert your own goal there, but there's a lot of truth in what you said.
Yeah. And then you spend a lot of your time just feeling frustrated and like an outsider because you're like, no one understands me and doesn't know what I'm going through. And so when you understand that idea of my people and being with people that have the same goal, now all of a sudden you're just like, oh, either I'm not in the right group or you find your voice in that group. So you're able to tap in more to what the community's heart is too.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. There's definitely a way to adapt to the group that you're in and get them on board with your goal, even if they're not immediately inside of it. But I do think to your original point, having people with similar goals, super game changing.
Yeah. So what we were talking about earlier too was I've noticed because now I'm having these do the thing challenges. They're in a lot of different communities all over the world. And so I've been able to really see almost even entrepreneurship from the, I don't even know, 10,000 foot, 100,000 foot lens, however you want to call it. But there's the group, they're like, we're here to make money and we're doing it through maybe it's virtual events or something and it's focused on the money piece. And then there's another group that's focused on more marketing and the hooks and all of that stuff. And then there's another group, which is more the impact entrepreneur. And I'm sure there's more groups, but those are the three that I've at least identified. And I feel like that's part of it. And whether you're in business or not, and you're listening, because I know there's some people here that are still, they just want to do the thing. So they're listening from that perspective. I think it's really important to understand the group kind of psychology as a whole. So then you could feel more understood when you're in there. Whereas I come from the impact entrepreneur lens, I'm still in those other groups, but I just know kind of how to talk to those groups better. Whereas before I was like, I just want to help people, but then they don't understand. And then I'm exhausted trying to explain what I'm doing. And I think that's important for people to understand too. As you have these big goals, it's really finding the right group that's able to do that. Or if it's maybe not the exact group, you could still be in there. It still serves a purpose. You're still able to meet people, but it's understanding the people inside of it.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like the example that pops into my head when you were saying that is having different friend groups in your life. If you were a football coach talking to a football team, you would approach that way different than if you were the math coach on the mathletes or maybe the chess club or anything like that. You're still part of those clubs, but I'm not knocking over chess pieces and getting rah-rah with the chess club. I'm probably going to sit down and be like, you want to move your queen over to 6'4"? And then for football, maybe I'm smashing my head against helmets. So yeah, I think knowing your audience and communicating a message that resonates with them is it's an important skill to have. Yeah.
Yeah. Did I show you this yet? My comfort circles?
Yeah, hit me. I first thought you were going to take out a football helmet.
Yeah. So it's great because I feel like you have this really good ability to mirror back and then kind of share. But basically, this is the other thing. So in addition to the do the thing formula, I've been really identifying a person's individual transformation, but it's also a person inside of a group. And so for those of you listening and not watching, feel free to come to the YouTube channel, or most likely if you're listening to the podcast, you have seen me break out my comfort circles before. So with that, it's kind of cool because you're in the monetize your voice circle, right? With what you teach, you're teaching people how to do Facebook ads. And that's what your business is. But I mean, it's like people have to go through all these other circles first before they can actually get comfortable. And so the horse is when you're still more silent about what you're doing, or maybe you went through a transition in your life and you're not yet ready to talk about it, then find your voice as now I'm ready to talk about it, at least figure out what's going on, who I am, find my purpose again. And this is for any kind of transition. And then sharing your voice, that's podcasting, speaking, monetizing, that's where you are, creating your movement, global reach. Oh, I think the Project Moonshot, though, that thing is going up there. But the point is, yeah, I don't know. I think that's also the group psychology when you're inside of a group, knowing what circle the group's in, or if you're the audience owner, knowing what circle your group's in, because a lot of people say they have the wrong audience because their offer didn't convert or however you want to word it. But the way Do the Thing works is you're just not at the right comfort circle. And so that's when I put them through a challenge before they can get to the right circle. But the point is that I feel like when you understand what your comfort circle is or what circle you're in that group, it really helps you fit in better also and not feel so alone, whether you're by yourself or you're inside someone else's space.
Yeah, 100%. When somebody comes to you and says their offer isn't working, have you found that most of the time they have a decent offer and they're just talking to the wrong people, or they haven't identified that which circle they're in?
Yeah, I have a different way of putting it. So when I get a new so basically my goal, declaring it here for the world to hear,
Nice.
is
Big promise.
yeah, I want the Do the Thing challenges to be kind of adopted into every community, every company, any organization all around the world, because I've developed a framework, a formula to help a group take action together. And that's when they get closer and more connected. And so what I do when I have a new community is I first am identifying what circle their group is in, because even though they think they're in the monetize your voice circle, they're not. A lot of times they're in this find your voice circle. And so people are too scared to even put themselves out there. So how are you going to monetize if you're not putting yourself out there? So I have a foundational challenge that I give the communities to be able to even just see where they're at as a foundation. And then once they do, then I have challenges inside each circle to help that group move, if that makes sense. And so what's great is when they get new audience members, the new members almost adapt to where the group is. So for example, it was so funny when I did the Start a Podcast challenge, and then I did another challenge after that. The people that were after that, they didn't need to do the Start a Podcast challenge because everyone already had started podcasts. So it was almost like podcasting became contagious.
Yeah.
And now everyone in my group's starting to do TEDx talks. So I don't need to do a TEDx challenge because they're all doing TEDx talks because everyone's already doing it. It's kind of cool. And that's what I do inside different communities is when you do the challenges. So yeah, I don't actually use the words wrong audience to answer your question. I say not the right comfort circle, and they just need to go through something personally, like some kind of challenge before they can get to the right one.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds super impactful. Great. What has been your favorite transformation that you've seen amongst these folks that have gone through? And I love the idea of it being contagious, that movement portion of this, of we're all crushing it with the podcast. We're all crushing it with TEDx. We're all crushing. Which one of those has found a place in your heart where you pull from when you're like, this is really important? I think about this.
I think my favorite thing is I like helping someone find their voice and their story. And I'm curious on you too, when you're doing ads for people, where that lives. Because for me, when someone's no longer concerned about how they look or what people think, and they're so tapped in to what their message is and what they're here to do, and they're focused on their own story, but then because they're so alive from the inside, that's what brings it out so powerfully. So I love that person. So I have people that had joined the Find Your Voice Challenge, which is the foundational challenge. And then within 8 months, they've done TEDx talks, started communities, monetized from nothing, from just working a regular job. And that's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
What do you think about that when you're helping someone do ads? Is there a struggle that you see them kind of going through that you're having to help them overcome?
There's there's surprisingly a lot of pinpoints that people go through. I think the first obvious one is not having a clear offer or a front end offer to get in front of a prospective client or prospect. So not having a good vision of that. Typically lead flow is a big pain point in general, which is why we're running ads. And usually when you mention having your voice or your story inside of the ads, that's great for authority building. But most of the time, if they're small business owners, they just need clients that care about having the transformation that they can promise more than they care about the actual person. Mainly because the majority of small businesses aren't known. People don't even know that they have these services or do these things. So just getting that initial offer out into the world is probably the most important.
Yeah. And so you mentioned the pivot from the podcast agency to Facebook ads. What was that about? What kind of made that come about?
that came about because I was running a podcast offer, of course, and I was running meta ads, and I was like, wow, I'm getting a lot of great leads. This is going well. And then I realized in a lot of the pitches, the sales pitches where I was talking with business owners, and I'm like, yeah, with podcasting, you'll probably be seeing results in about 6 months from now. And it's a middle of funnel strategy. And they were like, I need results tomorrow. I need them right now. And then I realized for myself, since I was already running those ads, that it was like, okay, most of these businesses just need leads. They need more opportunities to drive revenue. And the quickest way to do that is if I provide you a lead that wants to buy your service. So it was more of the ability to provide quicker results for business owners. But I love podcasting. It definitely has a special place in my heart. But the pivot's been really positive from that perspective, being able to help more business owners quicker.
So tell us, I want to capture Project Moonshot. So tell us where you are right now in the process and what is left and what are you doing? So for anyone that wants to follow along with this.
So we have added probably close to 20K in monthly recurring revenue since we have 80K to go. Yeah, which is, I mean, everything comes with its challenges. But the main thing that I'm doing is essentially, and I wanted to touch on this earlier when we talked about finding your voice of just pure repetitions and doing the work in terms of being willing to do the same thing over and over and over again. This will hopefully all have a through point here. I find that one of my downfalls as an entrepreneur is I love to do a lot of things. I like the shiny objects. I love chasing them. But I think the beauty in business is the amount of repetition that you can do over and over and over and over and over until something is absolutely streamlined. You don't even need to think about what's next. You don't even need to think about what you have to say in the sales call or whatever the case may be, the thing that you're doing. So that's that for Project Moonshot right now, is getting to the point where there's enough volume, there's enough ads being created, enough campaigns being run, enough leads coming through, enough sales calls being done, enough delegating being done, that it's all streamlined to have the next 80K of growth be fluid, not an uphill grind. This is something that will be sustainable in the long term. It would be a shame for Project Moonshot to be like, hit the goal and then it all tanks to zero. So I think that's part of it, sustainability.
And okay, so 20,000 a month extra in the last 2 months. So people are going to be mad if I don't ask you. What did that look like? How did you do that? I mean, obviously ads, but was there a step-by-step thing that you kind of went through to figure that out?
Yeah, I think the main thing, and this is what I would recommend most entrepreneurs do, especially when they're trying to refine their offer, is just, I should say this, I would simplify it. So anytime I am thinking about starting an offer, I think about starting it with one audience and getting it to 1 million and only doing that thing. No need for multiple offers. Just find one that works and then scale it up to as large as you can. So defining their pain points, defining their desires, and then actually walking through. And this is what I think some business owners miss out on, is every single step that it takes to fulfill on for a client, and then having the cost of goods associated with it, and then seeing how much you can charge based on your cost of goods. That's probably the first step that I took in terms of how can I tangibly do this and still have the margins that I want while scaling this up. But I don't know if that was too many.
I'm wanting to ask you a coaching question right now. Are you open to publicly coaching me on the podcast?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, cool. So showcased your skill set right now. As you're talking, I'm like, oh, one offer. Yeah. So my problem is, so I don't know if you know my background. I owned a staffing company for 20 years. So my brain thinks in audience matches because of hiring stuff. So basically for so long, people were telling me I had to focus on it, but I wasn't able to because I just think I was building this comfort circle map. So it's all over the place in terms of who I serve technically, because I mean, it's engagement is what I teach, right? That's what I'm able to help people do, is engage audiences through the challenges. And so I'm struggling because I want to do ads now. Because if you think about it, I'm audience matching now. So I have too many people. So I have my new thing that I'm in love with, which is this $1 billion impact marketplace. So I'm like, oh, do I just focus on that, where I'm inviting people to join that thing, which it then leads into the challenges. It leads into everything. So it's a great lead gen, essentially. And then I also have this thing called my People Party Bootcamp, which is crazy good. It's where I help people fill the room, draw people in based on whatever they're interested in. I teach them how to sell one-to-many, how to get testimonials, all in this bootcamp. It's really great. So there's that thing. And then there's running these challenges to get engagement. So if your group is dead, your company's dead, whatever, you want to get engagement, well, you have to run these do the thing challenges. So from an ad perspective, what would you focus on?
The first question I would have for you is, which one is the most lucrative?
That's a good question. I feel like they all are. It just depends on, everything's connected. That's the thing, right? That's the thing that I'm struggling with. So everything's good, but I do everything organically. So now I'm like, how do I automate this? That's kind of where I've been for the last probably year. But there's part of me that wants to just go all in on this $1 billion impact marketplace, because that's pulling in the entrepreneur, it's pulling in the company, and it's pulling in the nonprofit technically. So if I went all in on saying, come to this and you'll be able to sell your offer at this marketplace, technically they would have had to have gone through a do the thing challenge before they sell the offer. But yeah, I guess when they join, that's the first email, right? Is, okay, great. You want to be a part of this marketplace and pitch your offer, you have to join this challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it could be a great place to start. Typically, what I would do is, running ads is mainly a number game at the end of the day. So if you find that out of those options, one of those avatars or folks that become paying clients, they have a higher lifetime value than others, that's typically the one that you would want to start with, because when you're doing paid ads, something that you have to consider instead of something organic is you'll probably have a higher cost per acquisition. So if you end up having to pay $500 to acquire a client for any of these various offers, but you find that one of these, if they do the challenge and then go to the event and then they end up having something on the back end where they purchase is much higher, that could be the right route, because I'm willing to pay $500 to get a client because I know they're going to pay $4,500, $5,000, or whatever the case may be on the back end. So that's typically how I look at these things, is just, does the math work, and can I have enough traffic to convert at a rate that makes the offer scalable? That's
Thank you. Got to see it. I love the question too. I love anytime someone can ask me a question or asks anyone a question. It's like all of a sudden you're able to go, what do I want? What's good for me? Yeah. Okay. What is your number one piece of advice for people on doing the thing?
That is such a great question. My number one piece of advice for doing the thing would be others focused. So when you think about the thing that you want to do, how does it serve others in a way that is beneficial to them, helps them reach their goals, and is overall fruitful for everyone involved? I think that's probably what I would say. If I had to have a second subcategory, I might do it. I would say focus.
Okay.
Those would probably be the two that I would say.
Okay. I'd also love to hear, what is coming alive for you right now, just from this conversation?
I think just the willingness to continue to put in the work is what's coming alive. Big goals are inevitably going to have some dips in the journey. So I think this conversation has encouraged me to continue to just grit my teeth and do what needs to be done.
Okay. So you'll have to let us know after Project Moonshot is there. And then potentially, I'm putting this out there, we'll do a do the thing challenge for other people to do their Project Moonshot too. So just putting this out there into the world. We are at October 14th right now. I don't know when this is getting published, but we're marking the date.
I love it. Exciting. Man.
Oh my gosh.
This is some real deal accountability.
Please share with everyone how they can find out about you, potentially work with you, all the good things.
Yeah, I think the best place is if you want to check out my podcast, the Nickolas Natali Show. Stacey's going to be a guest on it, so you can listen to that episode there. And then inside of all of those links or descriptions are ways to contact me directly. But there's a lot of free episodes on running ads and offers and all that stuff too. So that's what I would say.
All right, you guys, thanks for joining, and do the thing. Don't wait for opportunity. Create it. And hey, guys, have you checked out my Facebook group yet? Go to dothethingcollaboration.com.